It's Tuesday and there's football. Who would have known? Who would have guessed? But hey, there's a pandemic and everybody's got to make changes and adjustments. And so does the NFL. So that's what we all get tonight. Welcome into Hafeman Bros Talking Packers, some NFL, and self scout, because that's what you do on the bye week. You self scout. So Ben and I are going to talk about our self scouting that we've done and how we can improve. We're going to tell you about that tonight. Then we got to talk about some NFL news, some big news in the NFL. And we have a guest who's really excited to talk about that because he was asking me about it just yesterday. Are we going to talk about some NFL? And then I had to figure out, why would he do that? Why would he be asking about that? Oh, I see why. So we'll get into that too. And we're going to give a little Packer history lesson since I've been holding this one. This was some research I did months ago, and I've been holding it. It didn't fit into one of our other shows. And now I can give that to you tonight. Little Packer history lesson. So welcome in. Welcome on. Hafeman Bros Talking Packers. Ben, how the heck are you?
Tired, crabby. I worked the last 7 days in a row, and today was my first day off. And we had a bunch of stuff go wrong. We bought a washer and dryer a couple weekends ago, and then it was delivered on Saturday. And for some reason, the guys didn't want to install it or whatever. They just dropped it off and they're like, see ya. And we were like, what? And then turned out they're from Milwaukee. So somehow they hired people from Milwaukee to come all the way to Rochester, Minnesota to deliver stuff. Didn't make any sense. And I wasn't here, but Jessie was. And she was like, well, aren't you guys going to install it? It says you're going to install it with all this stuff that we got. And they're like, oh, well, it's our last one. We can install it for you. And then I guess it was like 3 minutes later, and they're like, okay, you're good. So then I looked at it later, and I was just like they didn't change the hose thing, or the connection from the dryer to the outside that they said they were going to do. They brought the replacement stuff to change it. They had the washing machine plugged into a regular outlet instead of the specific washing machine outlet that it was supposed to be plugged into, which was the one that, they should have seen that when they unplugged it in the first place, the old washer. And I was just like, what is this mess? So then we got all cranky and then they were supposed to change our dryer door because our house is the stupid house in the world where it has your washer and dryer on the wrong side. So that if you have the side opening ones, the doors open to each other and you got to climb over the top of them. That's part of the reason why our old washer and dryer got messed up and we had to get new ones. Anyways, this whole washer and dryer thing, Jessie called and complained because I'm not really good at complaining about stuff because I work in retail environment. So I hate dealing with people that complain about crap all the time, even if they have a right to do so. And actually probably makes sense that they do it, but I still don't want to deal with it. And I don't want to be the type of guy who has to complain. So I don't, but Jessie's really good at it. She can just, get all cranky with them. And so then they were supposed to set something up. And then Monday comes along and they're supposed to call us back and set up a time. Nobody called or anything or emailed or anything. And then finally Jessie called them on Monday afternoon and she was like, it's been 2 days. And we're supposed to get a call to set up an appointment to have somebody hook our stuff up right and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll get right on there. And apparently the first day on Saturday, they never actually set up a thing in there to get people to let them know that they're supposed to call me or whatever. Anyways, finally some guy showed up today. It was supposed to be between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. And they showed up at 12:55.
Well, they're coming from Milwaukee, so
no, these guys were the original. These were legit guys.
Okay.
These were legit guys. These weren't guys, and I don't know why they weren't there. I guess it's because they only work Monday through Friday, and they don't want to work on the weekends. So maybe they had to outsource the weekend job, and they went all the way to Milwaukee just to freaking find people to outsource a weekend job. I don't get it, but anyways, and these guys, they show up, and it took them over an hour to switch the dryer door from one side to the other side, and hook up the dryer. And all that stuff, and rebalance the dryer because it was all wiggly. That's the other thing they didn't do. They didn't rebalance the dryer so it wouldn't be wiggly all over. But it took them over an hour because I don't know why. But it works fine now because we just washed some towels. Anyways, that's a nice boring towel washer and dryer story for you to start the show. You can see how great this one's going to be.
Ben, you did not do a lot.
Just lost a bunch of people. We had 7 viewers. Now we have 1.
Oh,
just kidding. I think that one was always a 7, but it looked like It looked like it looked more. It was 3 for a while.
That's just your positive attitude. That's your rosy sunshine outlook on the world that made you see it as the 7 instead of a 1.
Okay. Well, I'm done talking for the rest of the day. Back to you.
Hey, we can all celebrate that. Just kidding. Hey, so Smurf Glass, here's the deal, right? We got some stuff to talk about going on in the NFL. There's lots of weird stuff going on. There's some other upsets, some big wins, some other crazy stuff. But first off, bye week is self scout, Ben. So this is what we did. Okay, I said, how can we be better? Because during the bye week, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to scout yourself, evaluate yourself, and how can you be better? Now, you may be thinking of an incredible list when I pose this to you about how we could be better, and anyone that watches us could probably come up with that list, really a big long list too. But so I can't always think of everything, but here's what I was thinking. Now, I've been told that I should talk less. I've also been told by the masses that we should have a little bit more structure and segmentation here. So we're going to come up with some new features to the show, some little consistent segments that we got going, so you know what to expect, and then that way we'll have a little bit more of a structure to the show, and it's not just completely wild and free, free falling, free balling, whatever you want to call it for the whole.
Oh, that classic Tom Petty song.
That's right. That's right.
Free balling. That's a great one.
See, you sang first tonight. I don't think I even sang tonight. That's great.
Oh, you didn't sing?
I don't know.
I tried not to listen to you, so I didn't know if you sang or not.
I think you jumped onto your laundry story, but that is weird. First of all, it shouldn't take him 1 minute to hook up your washer and dryer, but it also probably shouldn't take him an hour to hook up your washer and dryer. So hopefully,
I don't know why. Well, the door. Here's the thing: the door is one of these doors that can open out, and it can also open like this, like that. Like if this is the washer and the door opens like this, but it also opens like that. So they had to turn it from opening like this to opening like this, and still keep it like this. And it was a little confusing for them apparently, and it took like a half an hour for them to figure out how to do that. So that was something, but they said it could be done, and then it worked. Now it works now, as far as we've used it. So hey, but I think they were just kind of like, man, what is going on? Bruce is on. Yeah. Hey, Bruce, what's up?
Hey, Bruce, how's it going? All right, so here's what we got. We're going to come up with a couple segments. We're going to debut those on Friday, and we will have some regular Tuesdays. But there is a new Tuesday segment, Ben. And for this one, we got to bring in our guest for the new Tuesday segment for Hafeman Bros, which is NFL around the league. Around the league. And the reason we're bringing this in is because of this guy right here. Because, Rick, I was trying to figure out why you're like, are you guys just going to talk about the Packers again? Or are you going to talk about the NFL and all this sort of stuff? He tried to disguise it, saying it was really about, some things about the COVID situation, which we'll touch on, and the Vikings and Seattle crazy ending and all this other stuff. But really, we know what you wanted to talk about, which was the fact that your Raiders defeated the Chiefs, upset the Chiefs at Kansas City, and now your Raiders are the Super Bowl favorite from the AFC. Yes, put it down. Raiders in the Super Bowl. Raiders, Packers, Super Bowl this year.
I hope you're right.
What did you think? That's crazy. They scored like a crazy amount of points, 40 points or whatever. They lit them up pretty good. And they got I just watched the extended highlight package, but they had a number of actual fourth or third down stops to force the Chiefs to punt. So that was probably pretty encouraging too.
Yeah, seeing some defense out of them was certainly encouraging. One thing that surprised me a bit, Ben and I were talking about it earlier, the fact that Ruggs, their speedster, wasn't getting the ball more in that game. But, when he did get it, he was effective, giving the Chiefs a taste of their own medicine, having been on the receiving end of Tyreek the Streak more times than I care to remember. It's nice to see the Raiders turning the tables, burning the Chiefs on that. They came in, Waller provide a nice 1-2 punch, should open things up for each other going down the stretch here. It's nice to see Carr playing well. And mostly it was nice to see the Chiefs lose. They're not invincible. They're not going to run the table and go undefeated this year, even if they only lose one game. The Raiders beat them. So that was a good exclamation mark on the week. But there are a lot of other, I think, important events that took place over the weekend that might be a little more relevant to the Packers. So
but
it doesn't have to be just about the Raiders.
Hey, that was the most relevant because it set the stage of who the Packers' opponent will be in the Super Bowl this year. It's going to be the Raiders. It's going to be the greatest thing. Now, the one thing is I watched those highlights that I was just struck by. I was like, wow. First of all, Derek Carr had some good, some decent deep throws, but he was a little underthrown oftentimes on some of those long passes that he tried to hit guys on bombs down the field. And I just thought, watching Ruggs, and Ben talked about Ruggs before the draft and at the draft, and I was like, wow, the Packers have nobody like that. They have nobody like that. And wouldn't it be nice if Aaron Rodgers had a nice toy like that? And then I watched Tyreek Hill on the other side, and I'm like, here's a toy for Mahomes. Aaron Rodgers has no nice fast toy like this, except the guy who is kind of fast but not as good at running as those guys and might drop the ball half the time. So that was a little discouraging, but also kind of led me to this interesting scenario, which I'll bring up, and then we'll get to other NFL news after Ben goes off about this. But I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the Packers defeat the Raiders in the upcoming Super Bowl, and then Aaron Rodgers go into the Packers front office, give Brian Gutekunst the finger, demand to get traded, end up with the Raiders, and then win the Super Bowl the next year with the Raiders as their quarterback, because he won't underthrow those guys. He'll hit them right in the stride. It'll be beautiful. And Aaron Rodgers will light him up for 6,000 yards. It'll be amazing. So, and Chucky will be happy about that too. What do you think about that, Ben? What do you think about that? Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back Super Bowls. All of a sudden, he's got 3 Super Bowls in the next, just 2 years from now.
I agree that Aaron Rodgers has a chance to win back-to-back Super Bowls. That I agree with. That's about it.
Good.
Brian Gutekunst, the only way he would ever trade Aaron Rodgers, even if Aaron Rodgers walked into his office and demanded to be traded, is if he wanted to lose his job the next day, because he would lose his job in about a year after he traded Aaron Rodgers. Matter of fact, he should be kissing Aaron Rodgers' butt. He should be bringing him chocolates every day. He should be, delivering his groceries for him so he doesn't have to go to the grocery store. He should be doing all that stuff, because it's Aaron Rodgers who's the one who's taken all of his crappy freaking draft picks and all these really good players who were undrafted free agent rookies and other things that are, good players, but they're not amazing. And Aaron Rodgers turns them into Robert Tonyan 3 touchdowns. And Alan Lazard, who trips over his own feet half the time, who catches 160 some yards in a game that they needed. So you're telling me, Goody should be kissing Rodgers' butt forever, especially when you look at the Jamon Moore, MVS, St. Brown, 3-headed monster of nothingness compared to Alan Lazard and nobody else, I guess, who could probably even play. But no, all this the last 4 games proved to us, number one, LaFleur, damn good coach. Damn good. Good offensive system. Knows how to attack the other team. Changes his philosophy with each game. That's great. The other thing it proved us is that system works no matter what players are in it, as long as those players are smart and your quarterback is a guy who can get the ball to them. And he is a good freaking Hall of Fame type quarterback, I guess. And those are the things that saved Goody's job. So Goody should be kissing LaFleur's butt, and he should be kissing Rodgers' butt. And neither of those guys should go. As if they ever would be gone, trade or whatever, Goody should be the next guy, if not before that, because his picks have been crap other than Jair Alexander and Eldon Jenkins, and that's about it. Back to you.
Pretty stinky Gutekunst for sure. But I do, anyway, I'll just put that out there. It'd be kind of a little justice for Aaron Rodgers. It'd be kind of crazy to see. I just want to see him have some guys like that. When I saw freaking Ruggs, man, that guy's a difference maker. That's crazy, crazy.
Hey, who's the other guy I was toting for before the draft, besides Aaron Parker, obviously, who never got drafted? But who's the guy who I was saying, oh, the Packers could get him here. The Packers could get him in the second round if they move up or whatever.
Claypool?
Receiver, Claypool. And what did he do?
He's a
He
monster.
finally gets some targets and he freaking destroys everybody. He scores 4 touchdowns. Of course, he was on my bench because I'm stupid. But the thing is, here's the thing. It's not that I'm stupid. It's that I don't know. Like, I know the player's good. I know he's going to be awesome, but the team doesn't know that, and they don't use him until they had to use him this last game because Washington or whoever the guy, or Williams or whatever, there's some guy who starts ahead of him got hurt. And the next thing you know, Claypool gets freaking 4 touchdowns. Why? Because he's awesome. Put him in the freaking game. There were 2 receivers in the draft I said I wanted the Packers to get if they could. Henry Ruggs, which they would have had to trade up for, or Chase Claypool, who was like a monster. He's like a DK Metcalf type guy, except he's from Canada, so he can play in Green Bay and be awesome. And they didn't take either of them, obviously. The Raiders got him. That was a smart move because they want speed, and they did it. And Rick's super happy about it. You can see look at how smiley Rick was before. I've never seen him smile that much in my lifetime. He was so happy. And it's days later, and he's still smiling about it. So look at that. And so imagine if Aaron Rodgers had one of those 2 guys. But I don't want to get into that anymore.
All right.
But the bottom line is they have no difference makers at wide receiver. And that's why Robert Tonyan, Aaron Jones are going to have to be some type of playmakers for this team and have to be on the field at all times, even as diversions. And I don't want to hear any more of the freaking Aaron Jones. Dude, save Aaron Jones. Save Aaron Jones so he don't get hurt. Just don't give him the ball, but put him out there. And I think the other thing that really bothers me is Robert Tonyan. We had this guy for 3 years, and we've wasted 3rd-round picks on tight ends 2 years in a row. Why? And we played Jimmy Graham for 2 years. Why? When we knew we had this guy. You and I knew it. We knew it 2 years ago. We said we want to see him out there. We want to see him out there. We want to see him out there. It's dumb. Back to you. Talk about something else. We got to have whatever.
We'll get back to the league. We'll get back to the league news in just a second. But anyway, Rick, your Raiders finally drafted a fast guy who can catch, which is nice to see.
So the second part that's key there, Jason.
I understand. One side note, though, about Bob Tonyan, when I was doing my comparisons on Friday's show, that I neglected to look up and mention. So I told you Bob Tonyan had a 4.58 40-yard dash, right? That was his 40?
Yeah.
You want to know what very nice. Do you want to know what the 3rd round pick, not this year's 3rd round pick, but last year's 3rd round pick, Jay Sternberger ran in the 40?
Sure.
4.75.
Holy crap, he's slower than my grandma.
Bob Tonyan is the most talented tight end they have and has been, even though they took back-to-back 3rd round tight ends the last 2 years. Brian Gutekunst is maybe the worst. Damn you, Goody, Bruce says, and you are correct. All right, Rick, let's go for other NFL news around the league. Oh, wait. Before we do that, I have something really exciting. Ben, did you realize Hafeman Bros is not just viewed in Wisconsin, not just viewed in Minnesota, not just viewed in the United States, but we are international with our viewership at this point. We have viewers in Europe. Balaz is from Eastern Europe. And we have another viewer from Mexico. And we got another viewer from Italy. All here at the Hafeman Bros channel. So we are reaching our Hafeman Brothers tentacles far beyond this country to bring you Packer love and Packer news. Rick.
I thought you almost said something else there. Good thing I heard the right thing.
Tentacles.
Okay.
Is that what I said? All right, Rick. NFL news.
Yeah.
What else
That's what you said. Thank God.
struck you? What do you think about Russell Wilson's magical win over the Vikings, even though the Vikings should have had that one, I think?
Tuck rule. It was a frustrating game to watch. The first half, I was actually rooting for the Vikings. I think that would have been certainly better for the Packers in the long run. It was nice to see Seattle get stoppered up. I think Minnesota's defense did a really nice job of keeping Russell contained in the first half. I don't know what happened in the second half. I'm assuming that it was hard for me to watch. We had company here. My parents were in town, so it was hard to really pay close attention to the game. But assuming at halftime, Seattle's offense came up with ways to try to keep. Well, Ben and I were talking about this a bit earlier too. Try to take Minnesota's safeties out of the equation, but it looked like Minnesota's defense did some adjustments that just weren't working as well. They weren't getting the pressure on Russell Wilson. They had Harrison Smith up at the line of scrimmage more often, as Ben had pointed out. But Seattle's offense is dangerous, right? They can put a lot of points on the board quickly, as they did. But coming down the stretch, Russell Wilson made some really craptastic looking passes. Probably should have lost the game. Certainly got lucky. I have newfound respect for DK Metcalf after a couple of games this season. He made some nice plays, but I don't really expect that the Vikings were going to make anything happen with 7 seconds left in that game. But that was not a fumble that killed the clock. They got screwed. If that had been Russell Wilson getting hit and getting the ball knocked out of his hand while his arm was coming forward, it would not have been a fumble. If it was Tom Brady, it would not have been a fumble. I think the Vikings got screwed. So,
what about the Pat Mahomes play from a couple of weeks ago when he fumbled and then they blew the play dead and they were like, oh, yeah, it was forward progress, except he was like sacked. Yeah. Brought backwards and he fumbled. And then they said it was forward progress. That wasn't against the Raiders. That was against somebody else, right? That was the week before, I think. But that's one of those things, too, where you're like, it's kind of getting ridiculous with a lot of these teams. And watching that Seattle game against the Vikings, I was just like, there's two things about it. First of all, as soon as Dalvin Cook got hurt, Kirk Cousins looked like he was scared to death. Like he didn't know what to do. He looked, I mean, and the bottom line is, and I've said nice things about Kirk Cousins for a long time because I think his ball is so pretty. He throws a perfect spiral. He's very accurate. But as soon as the play breaks down, if his guys don't get open or the play doesn't work, it's a freaking disaster. Like Kirk Cousins in the Packers offense would be awesome. Kirk Cousins in the Vikings offense is awful at times because when plays don't work, he just looks god awful. Like he doesn't know what's going on. And you watch that game, the other guy on the other side, he's the exact opposite. When the play's supposed to work, he hardly ever throws the ball. It's usually like second plays and like running around, holding the ball. And I was telling Rick in the first half, Russell Wilson was 6 out of 6 passing. He had over 100 quarterback rating. He'd gotten sacked 4 times in the first half. His total net passing yards was like 7 yards because of all the sacks he took. And they had no points scored. He got sacked more times in the first half against the Vikings than Aaron Rodgers has been sacked in 4 games. And that guy's an MVP? All because he came back on some lucky bull crap because the Vikings are stupid. What I want to talk about is this. And a lot of people are saying that it was like, what do you guys think about the move? There's 2 moves in this game that, like, if I got to be honest, and I told some guys at work that because, I live in Minnesota. I talked to some guys at work, and I told them, I was like, if I was a Viking fan, I'd want Zimmer gone now. I would just want him gone now. Going for 2 after they scored the touchdown in the third quarter was a waste of time. You don't go chasing points before you have to get them. They didn't. They went for 2, didn't get it. It was stupid. It was like Kirk Cousins' quarterback sneak. Like, that's ever going to work. Like, what are you doing? That is the dumbest play call of all time. And then
him hesitating on that play too.
Well, yeah. Well, it's almost like he didn't want to do it, but then he did want to kind of do it, but he wasn't sure. And he was like, well, I guess I'll have to do it. Like, I don't know if that was actually a called play. It's almost like it wasn't a called play. It opened up, and then he was like, oh, my God, it's opened up. And it took like a second for it to register in his brain that it opened up. And then he first went, and then next thing you know, boom, he's getting smacked and he's tackled. And the other thing is going for it on 4th down. Well, there's 2 things. First of all, the play call, the end around to Thielen on 3rd down. What is that? That's a stupid. Thielen is not fast. He's a 30-year-old white wide receiver. He's a possession receiver. Why are you doing an end around with Thielen? I guess nobody would expect it. I wouldn't expect it. And obviously, it didn't work either. But the other thing is this. Even with all those other 2, those dumb moves, by kicking a field goal, which was a 30, at least like it was like just 30, 35-yard field goal, right? You're guaranteed to not lose the game. you're guaranteed to not lose the game by kicking that field goal because you'd be up by 8 points. So the only thing the Seahawks could do would be to tie you, even if Russell Magic happens and they go for 2 and then get 8 points. The best case scenario for the Seahawks would have been for a tie and then go to overtime. Now, you could lose the game in overtime, but as far as regulation goes, but if you go for it, and first of all, you might have the ball longer, yes, but you could still call another play, fumble, do something stupid, and have them get the ball and go all the way down, or whatever the case is. Well, and a lot of people, I've heard everybody under the sun talking about how they agree with the idea to go for it on 4th down. So what do you guys think? Do you agree that it was a good idea to go for it on 4th down? I've heard everybody, all the national media says that's a good idea. I listen to the Vikings radio shows after. That's the other thing. These Viking fans, there's a bunch of YouTube things. They're all just like me if I was me, I'd be screaming and yelling and freaked out. I'd be like, what the crap? All like shades of Seattle, Green Bay 2014 FC Championship game are there. I mean, the Vikings had to do one thing right. If they would have just done one out of the 8 things they did wrong, they would have won. It's the same thing. Why does Seattle get away with this crap? They get away with going up against teams and they do things that are stupid. And then they end up winning somehow. They're not good. They're lucky. They got Eckes luck. Does Eckes live in Seattle? Does Eckes sprinkle luck on him or something? He's like a little luck fairy and sprinkles it on Russell Wilson. I don't get it. But what do you think? You think it was dumb for 4th down or what? I don't know.
Yes, it was dumb. And the same people that are telling you it wasn't dumb are the same people that would tell you, referencing back to the painful Seattle Green Bay NFC Championship game, that would say how they understood how Brandon Bostic, was that his name? Or was that him? Brandon Bostic?
I don't know. I can't.
I think it was Bostic. How he went for the ball. How you're a player. You can't tell me the ball's in front of you. You're not going to go for it. He's just being a player.
Yeah, you can. You do what your job is.
The guy behind him is supposed to get the ball. He's supposed to block. He didn't do his job. That's why he cost the Packers the game. That's why the guy was cut. That's why he was never a Packer again. That's why you hammer on him after that. You don't, it's okay, buddy. Yeah, we understand. He's an athlete. What did you think he was going to do? He's going to go after that ball if it's right in front. No, it's not his job to go after the ball right there. His job is to block so the guy behind him with better hands can get the ball. And then the Packers can win and go to the Super Bowl. And then we're not waiting 10 years for another freaking Super Bowl. If I got his name wrong, I'm sorry. I'll look it up. Bostic, I hope. Tell me. Hey, we got some breaking news. Bernard says he hates Russell Wilson. Way to go, Bernard. Mom, of course, hates Russell Wilson. He's not an MVP in their book. And hail to the Redskins. Hey.
That's not good.
Says breaking news. The Jets release Le'Veon Bell.
Is that true?
Hey, I'm going with hail to the Redskins here. That's what he says.
Yeah, but they're not even that anymore.
All
They're
right.
the Washington football team. So
hail
I don't know.
To the Washington football team.
I can't believe this. I can't believe this guy. If he doesn't,
we're gonna have to check it.
You gotta check the stats.
I know they were trying.
Rick, you know how to do that. Rick always checks stuff out. Rick, you're an information guy.
I got stuff, but then I get messed up.
I got to say a few things. I've mentioned Dungeons and Dragons quite a few times on this year podcast.
You're kind of nerdy.
And Rick's been on with me, and Rick has been stoically silent during all these Dungeons and Dragons. And all I know is I've played many a game of Dungeons and Dragons with Rick. Matter of fact, there was a time when I was the DM and I didn't know all the rules, but Rick is like an encyclopedia of rules, and he was my encyclopedia. And I'd be like, Rick, what page is that rule on? He'd be like, page 207. And there it was, 207 was the rule. And I'd be like, Rick, what page is this? What's page is this spell on? He'd be like, that's page 57, third column down in the section of under blabbity floop flop. And I'd be like, whoa, blabbity floop flop. And there it was. So, Rick, I'm surprised you're always so silent when I bring up D&D stuff when I know you were a D&D guy at one point.
I won't deny it.
Okay,
Actually,
all right.
My kid was playing with some of his friends for the last couple of years, so it's coming back. But everything changed.
Cool.
Now it's like 700th edition, and we're old and we're playing 2nd edition. But anyway,
I still have all that old crap. I think I got to throw those away. What you got? You find the news?
Fact checking. The story on ESPN is that the Jets are trying to trade Bell.
Okay.
So maybe they got sick of that and released him if it's really breaking news.
Ooh, could be breaking.
I don't know.
If it's true, you heard it here first. If it's not true,
You didn't hear it from us.
you didn't hear it here.
So,
All right.
but back to kick or not to kick.
All right, Eric.
I would have kicked it. But playing devil's advocate, so you're the Vikings, and you're looking up at the Packers and the Bears. You got a pretty good lead in the division. You had been running the ball pretty well all game. Now, granted, if Cook was healthy and in the lineup, I'd probably have been more likely to say, yeah, go for it. But on the other hand, what have you got to lose? I mean, you put the game on ice, you lock it up. Is that something you can try to turn your season around on? You go into Seattle, beat the Seahawks, instead of risking a tie, which, maybe they were already conceding that they weren't going to be able to stop Seattle. But again, just looking at the other side, like if you're Minnesota, do you feel like you got nothing to lose? Let's go for it. See if we can pull it off. I don't know. I would have kicked it. It's easy to say that it was the wrong decision when it backfired. I wasn't expecting Minnesota to stop them anyway. So I would have kicked it. But
Ben, I have one question. How do you know that Dom Capers wasn't calling those defenses? You wanted Zimmer fired.
Mike Zimmer's in charge, dude. He doesn't.
Well, that's what
Remember
Mo
Mo-
said. I know.
Yeah,
that's what
he's
Mo
in
was.
charge.
All right. Maybe he's relinquished.
That's the other thing. If you're a defensive head coach, you're gonna go for it on 4th and 1 when you could be up by 8 points. When you're the defensive coach of the team, I mean, I don't know. I understand they're 1-3 and balls to the walls and just go. They went for it 4th down a couple other times in the game and got it. And but it's one of those times where, like, when a coach, Zimmer is a conservative coach and he always has been. And it's like when you change the way you usually coach in one game like that, I guarantee for the rest of the year, he ain't going for it anymore in times like that. After that, then, you know what I'm saying? He's going to be like, oh, forget it. Last time we tried, we lost. And it's crazy to listen to these Viking fans on these shows too. After they're always like,
What do they say?
well, they're just like, it's like, well, hey, I mean, the young guys developed and that's what we want to do. We want to see the young guys develop and they all look good and the corners look good for some of the time. And Kirk Cousins, and then they yell about Kirk Cousins and they're like, and they said something interesting about Kirk Cousins. They're like, Kirk Cousins, when the game is on the line and something bad and diversity happens, like, he falls apart. But then when it feels like the game is like over and they have no chance, like after Seattle went up 21 and they scored those, 3 touchdowns like a minute and a half, it looked like the Vikings were screwed after that. Then all of a sudden, there's like no pressure on Cousins anymore. He's like, we're going to lose. And then he starts playing great. And they go on these big long drives and score, and they go on another big long drive and score. They do it twice in a row almost. Well, though And they said, they're like, Cousins he's good when they have a lead. When the diversity hits and the game's close, he sucks. And then when it feels like diversity hits and they have no chance, like the pressure is weighed off of him and they can just play. And they're like, I wish he could have that, be cool all the time instead of being freaking out half the time. And
like
it's true.
Aaron Rodgers is cool.
Or Russell Wilson. I mean, I can't stand him, but the guy never flinches. The guy got sacked 4 times. There's a time where he was 15 out of 15 passing in this game. Like, how does that even? And then, but here's the thing. It's really interesting, and I'll give Russell Wilson credit for. He was 15 out of 15 passing at one point, and that last drive, how many incompletions did he have? A ton. And you know why? Because he knew, I got to stop the clock. I just need to get one play, make one play to get us the first down out of these 4 plays, whatever it is. Sometimes it was on 4th down. Sometimes it was on 3rd down. Sometimes it was on 2nd down. But he knew if the play wasn't there, he threw it away, or he threw it high enough where it may be incomplete, or he threw it only to a place where his guy's going to get it. And he stopped the clock, and they had enough time to go down and score a touchdown. They didn't even have to use their timeout, as a matter of fact, before they could score. And that was the other thing that's so dumb. It was 4th down with 28 seconds left or whatever it was, or even 3rd down. And you just can't let them catch the ball in the end zone. Like, take all your guys and have them line up right, like on defense. Just line them all up at the end zone and have a couple guys safety and then move them forward as soon as the ball snapped. Step forward 2 yards and give Wilson only targets before that, window. So he has to throw it down low. And then those guys, maybe they can move and make a play and get in the end zone. But do not give somebody a free release into the end zone or a cover in the end zone and back up like that. And that's what they did over and over again. If you force Russell Wilson to have to throw it inside, you can tackle him. But they don't. It's dumb. What are you going to do?
I got something to go to here. You mentioned the Viking fans watch that young talent develop, right? They might not have much of it developing, but there is a team that does. And even though they lost last night, what about your man Fitzherbert?
Yep.
He looks pretty darn good.
I'll say this. I watched the first half today. I haven't been able to watch much of anything last weekend because I've been like I said, I worked 7 days in a row and I was just too tired. And we had a whole washing machine fiasco and all. It was just, I haven't watched jack squat really. But I watched the first half of that game and he had a couple of dumb run around and then just chuck it up the middle of nowhere like a Brett Favre. And I was just like, oh my Lord. And it wasn't intercepted. It was just incomplete a couple times. So he does do some dumb crap. But man, he can laser that ball in there a couple times. He's got a great deep pass, deep ball. He's fearless in the pocket. He can avoid the rush. He kind of feels when it's coming. He can get out of it. He's a big guy. He's something else. And I don't know why they never win. I haven't been able to watch the second half. They were up 21-3. And somehow they lost. I didn't see the second half of that game, but it's just odd to me where all these teams that should be losing constantly, like Seattle and New Orleans, they're 21-3 they were losing. How do they win that? Like, it makes no sense. I don't get it. That's why it was super exciting to see the Raiders they were ahead of Kansas City, and Kansas City was coming back. And then the Raiders were like, nah, screw this. We're freaking going for it. And they kept scoring and kept scoring and kept scoring. And they really just freaking shut them. They didn't like relax, or I don't know. I don't know what these other teams are doing, but the Raiders, I didn't see the whole game, but from what it was looking like, they went for it, right, Rick?
They did.
Around.
They went for it on fourth down too, didn't they? To keep the ball and keep possession a couple times late in the game. I was like, that's what you got to do. Gruden was playing to win. And yeah, the Chiefs got a late touchdown to make it 40-32, but it was really, the game was over once they scored 40-24, and the Chiefs just got that last. Mahomes got some garbage yards. Kelsey got a garbage touchdown for fantasy owners and all this, but really, that drive when the Raiders got the 40 points, I can't remember the area on the field. It was close to midfield. It might have been even on their side of the 50, and Gruden went for it on 4th and 1. I was like, he's playing to win. Play to win, man. I like it. Don't Mike Holmgren it. Play to win. Do it. Hey, now here's the other deal. Look at this around the NFL. Now there's some other exciting things. I'll give you an update. The Titans are ahead of the Bills right now, 28-10. So your man Josh Allen's not doing so great, Ben. But did you know the Browns are
Yeah.
Did you know the Browns only have one loss?
Yeah.
The Browns.
That's the other thing the Viking fans are saying. They're saying, hey, maybe we screwed up. Maybe our coach is actually right now with the Browns.
Oh.
Maybe we had the right guy in Kevin Stefanski the whole time with the Vikings, and we blew it by letting him go to the Browns. That's what they've been saying. Because look at the Browns running a CAC. They can't be stopped. It don't matter who's out there. My guy's hurt. Chubb's hurt. Don't matter. They're still moving the ball. Hunt and that freaking whatever his name is, the guy that Nick stole from me, that jerk face and freaking picking up free agents. I don't know how he got him for me, but he's got a better record than me, but whatever. So, I don't know.
All right, I'm going to give you some other wild things, right?
Le'Veon Bell has been released. Sorry.
Ooh, you heard it here first.
Awesome.
You heard it here first. Hafeman Bros channel. Thanks to our new viewer, Redskins 41 4L. Hail to the Redskins. Thank you for the news. Thanks for checking our show out tonight. Now, a couple other wild things that went down, which are, of course, the Panthers keep doing well. Of course, they beat the Falcons, whatever. Rams crush Washington. Steelers get by. But again, the Dolphins smoked the 49ers.
Yeah, I know.
43-17. The Miami Dolphins destroyed the 49ers. So everybody's 49ers were in the Super Bowl last year, right? And everybody's like, oh my God, they crushed the Packers and the Packers aren't any good. And the 49ers are the standard to get out of the NFC. Come on. This league is crazy week to week. And it's even crazier this year with all the COVID stuff and games being moved to Tuesday and games being, pushed to different bye weeks and all this other sort of stuff because of these things that happened already. And well, there's a couple of stories out today about the COVID stuff. But the 49ers got their butts kicked by the Miami Dolphins, 43-17. So come on. Don't sit here and tell me that the Packers aren't good just because they're beating teams that aren't good. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So the Packers are awesome. They're going to be one of the contenders. They're going to be one of the teams right there. It would have been nice to have the Vikings not do dumb stuff and beat the Seahawks, but that didn't happen. So here we are where the Seahawks are still undefeated too. One other interesting development after a terrible injury, Ben, to Dak Prescott, my fantasy quarterback. So now I've got multiple guys with season-ending injuries.
Industries.
So
Whoa. Are you drinking again?
Yeah, but that's not the reason I did that. But the problem is my fantasy team is in shambles. I don't know how many injuries I can sustain anymore. And I'm destined to be like a 500 or worse team. But somehow the Cowboys behind the Red Rocket came back and won and beat the Giants. And all I can pin it on is McCarthy magic. No?
No.
Okay.
I think it's easy to be majestical when you're playing in the NFC least.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how bad that division was. And I looked at the standings. I was like, what? The first place teams have one win? What's going on here?
You know what's sad is
Oh,
one of those teams are going to make the playoffs. I think the Cowboys were easily the most talented team, even though their record wasn't very good. Certainly would have been a better team with Dak still as quarterback, but at least they got a veteran guy that can step in and take over. I don't think Dalton's a superstar, but it's better than some teams' backups. So. But the Cowboys, even if they end up at 500, might be good enough to take that division. So
they might get this. They might get the 6-10 and still win it. You never know. Maybe they'll spread the wins around in the division enough that the winning team will be 6-10.
Well, there was a time when the Seahawks were 7-9 and won their division. Remember?
I know.
Yeah.
Yep. That was the beginning of Pete Carroll's run, where they're like, "Oh, he's great," and they're great, and they weren't very good for a while, but yeah, they won the division at 7-9. It's just so crazy to watch some of this stuff, and then to watch people like disrespect the Packers when you got teams like the Buccaneers who are 3-2, and you got other teams like in the NFC East, and the Seahawks have been lucky as hell to win the games they've won, and somehow the Bears, by a combined total of I think they've outscored their opponents. Oh, I'm sorry, they've outscored their opponents by 5 points on the year, and they're 4-1. So that doesn't happen very often.
Their defense is good.
Yep. Their defense is good and the pass rush is scary. But right now we got the Buccaneers coming up next for the Pack, but we'll deal with that next time. Anyway, that's around the NFL, Here's a couple of news stories that just came out. The COVID situation is getting a little more difficult for the NFL. Now, we talked about how at first it was one game that was moved. Then it was a game that worked out to be like, okay, well, the bye weeks are the same, so we're going to move them to – they're going to have this be their bye week, and they're going to play during their bye week. And they're just running into more and more situations here. So the NFL is really cracking down on protocols. They're trying to put, stress to the teams to do it, to be really diligent. And I get it. It's a bunch of young, rich guys playing a sport. How do you make them just stay at home and then do their work? But it seems like most of the teams are doing a pretty good job of that, and I really hope they can keep it up, because otherwise this is just going to get hairier and hairier. A lot of people have said the NFL made a big mistake when they didn't build in some buffer weeks or shrink the schedule a little bit, keep the same timeline, but give themselves some weeks in there where they didn't have full slate of games, so they had more wiggle room to reschedule some of this stuff, because it's not likely that the league, the way it's set up, it's not in a bubble like the NBA was. You know, the NBA went 3 months from when they started until the championship was just finalized this week, going to the Lakers, and they pulled it off. No positive COVID tests, but they were all in a bubble. These guys get to go home. They get to come back. They're flying across the country. They're doing all this stuff. To think that they can completely avoid this thing is really not going to happen. So I don't know what the league's plans are moving forward, other than trying to crack down on the teams a little bit.
I think
Rick,
it's
what are your
just
thoughts on that?
given the sheer numbers compared to the NBA, it's going to be that much more difficult, right? I mean, you get one person testing positive anywhere in the organization, and it's enough to throw up red flags and cause problems. And we saw Major League Baseball face a lot of problems when they first got started too. But there's no way the NFL can do what Major League Baseball did. You can't play double headers. You can't jam extra games in during the week. I mean, players already aren't happy when they have a Thursday night game because of the quick turnaround between a Sunday night or just a Sunday game and a Thursday night game. So there's no way you're going to be able to fit a Tuesday to Saturday to Thursday. Like where are the extra games going to come in? Like you said, you don't have this cushion. You don't have extra space, and you can't do back-to-back games like you can in baseball or basketball to try to squeeze it in. So, just looking at the logistics of the playoffs and the Super Bowl, even if you don't have the crowds there, there's still television rights to the games, things like that. They're going to be affected. So just pushing the playoffs back 2 or 3 weeks is, I'm sure, not something that they're eager to do. So what happens? I mean, it's really going to screw up the schedule, really screw up rankings, seeding even for the playoffs. Like, you just call it a tie. You just go on win percentage. I mean, it's especially in a tight division race. It's really going to suck if you got a team that has half a game lead or something, and then they don't have to play and risk losing that because their game gets canceled in the end because they just can't fit it in the schedule. So I don't know how they're going to pull it off. I expect positive test numbers are going to be going up too. I mean, that's just the reality of it when you have this many people traveling and coming into contact with each other. I mean, we're only a month into the season, and how many positive cases have there been already? So it's a concern. I agree. I think there wasn't enough foresight in trying to schedule things. At least between the end of the season and the playoffs, if they'd given themselves even a 2-week buffer there, seems like that would have been a smart thing to do. Worst case, the players get some time to recuperate. I don't know. It's going to be a problem.
That was interesting. I mean, I think they went this summer and they put everything off for so long, hoping, I think, with just crossing their fingers and hoping it was going to get better. And then when it didn't, they're like, okay, well, now we've got to figure out how to move forward. And then they finally did. So they eliminated the preseason. They're willing to give that up because that was probably the least amount of lost revenue. But they didn't give themselves any wiggle room really within the season, like even building in an extra week or two of games and spreading them out a little more so you had the ability to be flexible. Instead, we got like tonight where they're playing a game on Tuesday and you got other teams. The league is also cracking down. So what was just on their website is they're saying, they're putting in new isolation mandates for high risk exposure to COVID-19 positive individuals. So they're really trying to isolate those guys as much as possible more quickly. They're putting in new protocols there. The other thing that's complicating this is now you have teams that are really pushing to get fans to play in front of fans again. And they're in the case of like the Saints, they really wanted fans last night, but the city of New Orleans was saying, no, this is not allowed at this point. So what are they doing? Rather than going along with that, they're exploring the possibility of playing home games at LSU Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge because Baton Rouge doesn't have the same restrictions. So is that
is that an outdoor stadium?
It is.
Okay.
It is, but
that's part of it too.
Yeah, but you still have the logistics of trying to get all these people funneled into these places. I mean, I don't know what that environment's like, and I can't necessarily imagine what it is to try to get people to come into these places, make sure you got the people wearing masks, doing all that sort of stuff. Who's in charge of that? How are they making sure that people are being safe to get to their seats? Yes, there's a difference between being outdoors and indoors, but if you're still in close contact with people, you're still putting people potentially at risk. So I look, you don't want me to get you don't want me to get political on here, but when the whole Trump thing with Comey, that was all outdoors. That was outdoors, but people were close
Just
together. How it spread.
The volume inside a dome stadium is so huge. I don't think that's the same type of indoors as being in a normal building.
Okay,
Right?
well, here's
I mean,
the thing that I know.
Just walking through the concourses is going to be more indoors, whether it's an outdoor stadium or not, than when you're in the playing area.
Right.
So
here's what I know. There's been 39 player positives since August 1st in the NFL. Okay. And there's been quite a few from the Titans and the Patriots the last 2 weeks. A lot of those players played in games when they had the virus because they have it during the incubation period for 5 days, a lot of times prior to them actually testing positive for it, is what I've heard. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I don't know for sure, but that's what I've heard. There's pictures of Stephon Gilmore as close to Patrick Mahomes' face as this glass is to my face right now. And it has been over a week and a half since that happened. And Patrick Mahomes has not tested positive. There have been guys who have played games against each other, breathing on each other, rubbing against each other, holding each other in Bakhtiari's case, if you ask Bo. And you haven't seen other teams that these teams have played against have multiple cases show up. So what that's telling me is it's not a problem of like the teams themselves, like when the players are in the building or when the players are playing the games, it doesn't seem to be transferring as much as it is these guys getting it from outside places, is what it seems like to me. Like they're going somewhere, doing something maybe they shouldn't be doing, or going somewhere they probably shouldn't go, or not taking the proper precautions when they're outside of the, the building and the facility and whatever else. And maybe in the Titans case, because there's apparently times where guys were walking through the facility without masks on, and there's video of that, I guess, or something. I don't know. I heard something about that. But what I'm saying is, a lot of these guys that we know have tested positive recently after they played a game, which means they probably had the virus and were able to shed the virus during the game. And those players from the other opposing team that were very close to them have not tested positive within the last week and a half. So transferring it in games doesn't seem to be as big a deal. So I'm not saying they let those guys play. What bothers me is that the Titans and the Patriots are allowed to get their games postponed to another later date and screw up a bunch of other team stuff when their players, were maybe putting themselves in places they shouldn't be. Because the Packers, guess what? The Packers just had a bye week. Now, they couldn't go anywhere. But from what I hear, Wisconsin is like the crappiest freaking COVID place of all time right now. And Green Bay in particular. So if that's the case, and all these Packer guys during their bye week have not tested positive yet, because I saw Aaron Rodgers' interview today on Pat McAfee, and he said there was 0 positive tests as of Tuesday. Okay, now, like I said, there's like a 5-day incubation period. Some moron could have went out Saturday night, and then maybe they test positive on Wednesday. I don't know. But what I am saying is there are teams out there who are in very high COVID regions, and their players are smart enough to not be in trouble or go into places that could be an issue. And there are other teams that don't have that issue. And this is the thing that I've always brought up from the beginning. What happens when you have a team and they're freaking 3-10 with 3 games left to go, and the guys are like, let's go partying. And they don't care. And they just go and do a bunch of crazy stuff. And then they come back. But then that week they play a game against a team who's one of the top teams in the league and vying for playoff seeds. And then now they can't play that game because the NFL is postponing it. And why is that team that's actually doing all the right moves and their players are doing all the right moves because they're in the thick of it. And this other team is not in the thick of it, and they don't give a crap anymore. Now, the team probably cares, but the players don't care or whatever it is. But yet that team should get punished. And or if they decide to just let it be like a whatever and, like a forfeit or they get the game win, well, then what about the team that still has to play regular games and they might lose one and lose a seeding because the other team got a free win out of it? Those are all the things that bother me about this whole thing. But from what I've heard, it seems like the players or the facility and the teams themselves in the building, it's not being transferred. It's like, it seems like they're getting it out. Like these guys where it's like a multiple guys from the same team. I don't think it's happening in the actual facility. It's happening more outside where they're all going together or doing something. I don't know, but who knows? But I'll ask you this. What is going on in Wisconsin, by the way? Like, how is it so bad? Like, I don't get it. Like Minnesota's doing decent, isn't it, Rick? Like from what I could tell from news and stuff, but
if you look at a map, it's Minnesota. Cases are starting to increase here. But if you look at a map, it's kind of like an island in the sea of red. But I think it's starting to increase in outlying areas outside of the metro, so it'll probably catch up. I mean, some of it is it's starting to rip through the rural communities now. So when you look at stats that are adjusted to per capita or per 100,000 people, if you got small towns like where we grew up, if you got 5 cases out of 2,000 people or 3,000 people, and those are adjusted to a per 100,000 rate, of course it's going to be crazy high compared to an actual big city. But that being said, those rural communities generally don't have the medical facilities and the healthcare support to deal with it if you do start getting complications. So, kind of cuts both ways, but stats can be a little misleading, but it is still concerning to see it tearing through. I mean, our hometown population isn't very high and there are a lot of old people. So, it could cause bad things.
Yeah, it was a perfect storm of, people, finishing up the summer, going back to school, people getting sick, tired of the restrictions and other stuff, and like all those things kind of coming together. And then, with this situation, there's that delay. There's the spread, and then there's taking the time before onset of symptoms, and then more spread, and then there's because you have asymptomatic people and all that sort of stuff. And then some of the schools went back right away in person, and it's like, okay, knowing all this, how do you think this is a good idea? I don't know, but there's a lot of pressure. There's a whole lot going into that, and that's why you've seen it do what it's done. Now, bringing it back to football, Bernard has the most important comment, which he says the Saints still don't scare him, whether they play in LSU or in New Orleans. He doesn't care. Saints don't scare him. You're right on there, Bernard. You're right on, buddy. All right, I got something for you here before we go to wherever we're going next, which we don't know because this show wasn't planned as well.
It's already 8:30. Holy crap.
We're almost done. All right, I'm going to give you something, and then, Ben, you got to finish up with the positive because this isn't exactly positive.
Uh-oh, that's not good.
We talked earlier about how bad Brian Gutekunst is. Well, he's not alone.
Boy.
He's not alone in his futility. Here's a couple of Packer history lessons that you should learn. After Sterling Sharp was drafted in the first round, Sterling Sharp was awesome.
Yep.
The Packers went 11 years without a first round pick who became a Pro Bowler. There were actually 13 picks in there. They had 2 picks in 90, 2 picks in 93. One of those picks in 90 was George Teague. And they went 11 years. And
that Pro Bowler wasn't even good.
Probably not. But they went 11 years without a guy who was a Pro Bowler. Oh, that's right. You're right. Now, another thing is there's a common misconception, right? Because people will talk about how the Packers have wasted Aaron Rodgers' career. They wasted Brett Favre's career. Ron Wolf has been on record saying, I wish I would have got him more help. I never got him enough help. Okay, well, let's look at that. During Favre's tenure,
Javon Walker.
He had Sterling Sharp, first of all, which was pretty good help.
Best wide receiver of all time, not named Don Hudson.
That's true. Plus he had...
Better than Tim Brown. Sorry, Rick.
Plus, in 1996, the Packers spent their first 3 picks on offense And in 2000, they had Franks in the first round, who was a Pro Bowl tight end, and Chad Clifton, who was a second round offensive tackle.
Yeah.
So they got Favre some help. It wasn't like they didn't ever try to get him anything. As a contrast, in Aaron Rodgers' years as the Packers starter, they went 15 years. During those 15 years since they drafted Aaron Rodgers, the Packers only have 3 first round offensive selections. Only 3 in the 15 years. Can you name those 3, Ben?
Balaga,
Yep.
Derek Sherrod,
Yes.
and
Includes this year.
oh yeah, Jordan Haidt. Love.
So since the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers, only 3 first round picks: Brian Bulaga, Derek Sherrod, Jordan Love. So who's gotten less help? Bad GM.
Hey, I got a question for Rick.
Okay.
I watched John Gruden's press conference after the Raiders-Chiefs game because I thought he'd be all fired up and like gloating, and he was actually pretty subdued for most of the press conference. I don't know if you watched it or not, Rick.
No.
But he said, well, you tell me I'm more into this than you. What's going on? Anyways, he said a name that he brought up off the practice squad to play in the game and help them win by rotating guys on the defensive line. Do you know what name he said? I will give you a hint. He is I already told you what he played, defensive line. So I'm just going to tell you he's a former Packer. I'm not going to tell you where he was drafted, but he was drafted by the Packers and played with the Packers. And apparently he was on the Raiders practice squad and was moved up to the active roster against the Chiefs and played some in the game. He's been mentioned on this Hafeman Brothers Talking Podcast many a time, not in glowing regard. Let's just put it that way.
In the interest of no dead air, I'll give up. But
okay, Dayton Jones. Dayton Jones was on the Raiders practice squad, and he was brought up to play in that game against the Chiefs and help the Raiders win that game. So there you go.
Wow.
A little nugget for all you Packer fans. A first-round pick that should have been Harrison Smith, but the Packers traded back like ding-dongs, and then the Vikings traded up ahead of him, and then they watched him take Harrison Smith, and then we took Dayton Jones, and then he played for like 3 years for us, and then we let him go because he sucked. And then he went to the Vikings, which is even more funny. And then he sucked for them. And then he hasn't been in the league for a couple of years. And then now he's on the Raiders practice squad because you can have veterans on the practice squad now, right? So, there you go. That's a little nugget of information I got from the John Gruden press conference. There you go.
Whew. Dayton Jones, a name I never thought I'd hear again. Wow. Impressive.
I would not have come up with that one.
I was looking at some highlights, or not highlights, but there's this thing that Jair Alexander did, something about generations or something. It's him, this little kid, and they're talking about he's like some peewee football kid, and they're talking about the plays they made. And they show the greatest Packer tackle by a corner of all time when he tackled Thielen into Diggs or Diggs into Thielen or whatever the hell it was. They show that, and they show a couple other plays, and Jair talks about his big play, and then the little kid talks about his big play, and Jair's like, "Whoa, that was a good move! Whoa, look at that spin move! You're like playing Madden out there and stuff." He's like really nice, this little kid. Super cool little interview. It's on Packers website right now if anybody wants to watch it. It's really cool. Anyways, in some of those highlights, I did not realize this. I thought Nick Perry, because Nick Perry has sucked, and he sucked forever. I thought that he hasn't been a Packer for years and years and years. Apparently, he was still a Packer just 2 years ago when Jair Alexander was a rookie, because he's in the highlights of that thing, which means that was his. So they signed him a second time. So they signed him after his first one was done, right? Then they signed him a second time. And then they cut him after 1 year because he sucked. Remember? How they had to, because there was no good free agent pass rushers that year. So the Packers paid him way too much money, way more than he should have ever gotten because they had nobody on the team other than Clay Matthews at that time. And I was shocked that Nick Perry was on it, but he was there, 53, and it said Perry, and he was slow, so I knew it was him. Oh, that was a good one.
You know what they always said? He was a monster in the weight room. Wasn't any damn
play
good on the
games.
field, but he was a monster in the weight room.
They don't play games in the weight room. That's right.
Oh God, Nick Perry, what a terrible pick. All right, enough with the terrible picks. Okay, now we're gonna do something we've never done before. Actually, we'll finish with that. I got one other thing before we go. We're gonna wrap it up pretty
You gotta
soon.
say something nice about something.
We covered all the
think of
NFL. Okay, update. The Bills.
Oh,
have
we got
inched a little closer. It's now 28-16 with 5:39 to go in the fourth quarter. 28-16. Titans leading Micah Hyde and the Buffalo Bills.
that's not good. Micah Hyde should always be leading.
Yep.
He's too good.
Chris Barnes is officially the best player from his high school on the Packers.
Okay, just stop it already with your Jordan Love hate.
He's a player on the rise. Chris Barnes. He's playing awesome. Can you imagine if the Packers didn't sign that guy? What their defense would be like right now?
All I know is Kamal Martin and St. Brown they're activated the active roster this week.
Brown. I mean, I like
Martin
Martin
back after IR.
I like Martin being back, but what is St. Brown going to do?
I don't know. But what are they going to do now with Summers and Martin and Barnes? Like, who are they going to play, and in what order, and who's the guy that they trust? You know what I mean? Like, because I got to be honest, I like Summers, but sometimes he misses tackles, dude.
It's true.
And I don't know if Kamal Martin's going to miss tackles because I haven't seen him actually in the game yet.
Rick, do you know?
Yeah, he was Minnesota.
He went to your school. You worked there. You went there. You worked there.
When I'd hang out with him, he said he would tackle people.
Nice. He looks like a guy that could tackle people. All right, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think he could tackle people.
Excellent.
No, I expected he would get significant playing time, if not land a starting spot at the start of the season. So, assuming he comes back healthy, I expect him to get playing time coming back, assuming that he still plays aggressively, doesn't, play soft with the knee, or I don't know. If they don't play any defensive linemen, they can have like 5 linebackers in there at the same time, so they can play them all. So.
Okay, I gotta say something. Bernard keeps saying this over and over again. He's saying people said that Breeze was the MVP in 2011.
Well, maybe they were talking about
Bernard. You gotta talk about this more, because Aaron Rodgers was MVP in 2011. Breeze has never been MVP.
That's true.
So I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who's saying all this stuff. Maybe he's talking about on the game, or was it the game last night? Because if it's Steve Levy is an idiot. Because there was one time during the Packer Falcons game, he called Matt Ryan Rodgers. I mean, that's the other thing. Aaron Rodgers today, they asked him if he was looking at the Monday night game last night, and Rodgers is like, yeah, sometimes I watch it with the sound off. That's the way I usually watch it the last couple of years. Oh, and then they were all like, McAfee's like, oh, dig. Oh, and he's, because he's talking smack about the ESPN color guys after Gruden and Tirico were gone. Well, especially Tirico. I think he likes Tirico, because Rodgers loves Tirico. Him and their buddies.
Brian Greasy's all right. I think Brian Greasy's all right.
I think I actually don't mind those two. Steve Levy
stinks.
But I don't know.
They've been searching for the play-by-play guy forever. It's been.
I know.
They can't find one. They had that shot. Who was that? They had that Sean McDonough guy. Then they had.
He was terrible.
He was terrible. Who was the guy they had most recently? I can't remember. He wasn't any good. He was like just over the top. I mean, Tirico was good.
Well, Sean McDonough, the whole dynamic between him and Gruden was just awful.
Yeah,
like, you could tell Gruden couldn't stand that guy. Whenever they were on the air together. Yeah, he's Chucky in
the whole time. He's, I don't know.
You know what that reminds me of? That's why Rick loves the Raiders so much. I remember when we used to play Battle Arena Toe Shinden, and Rick would do the one eye.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The one eye. Because whenever we played video games until 3 a.m, Rick got so tired he could only keep one eye open to keep playing the video game, and that's when I came up with calling him the one eye.
Yep.
Because Rick would rest one eye and keep playing video games, and then he'd stop and then he'd rest the other guy just to keep playing video games. That was a genius move, Rick. You could tell you were a genius then.
You always won too. It was freaking annoying whether you had 2 eyes or one eye. Cheat codes, Rick.
Charles Barkley, shut up and jab cheat codes.
Dang it.
Charles Barkley didn't need cheat codes.
Dan Marley can't hit threes like that.
All right, it's time. It's time to wrap up the show with the super fan of the week. Are you ready?
Well, I don't have
We've-
one. You better come up with one.
We've never done this before. We've never done this in the history of Hafeman Brothers Talking Packers or Hafeman Bros channel. Have we ever done this where we did the super fan of the week, where the fan of the week was actually on the show with us? Now, has this man been a super fan way back in the dark days of Hafeman Brothers Talking Packers, before we did video, before we went live and were loose and live, when I spent hours and hours editing Ben's nonsense into understandable material for you before he got more concise? Yes, I think so. I didn't go back to that show, but I think Rick was actually our first ever super fan of the week when we first started doing it. But this is a whole generation, new generation of super fan of the week. We're international now. They don't know our early super fans. Plus, they don't, with video, we got to start over. And not only that, Rick is always here. Rick is always commenting, jabbing us when he can. He's also in there making snappy comments to others. And he comes on the show and will sit through all of our jabbering and sometimes say something that makes some damn sense. Plus, smartest guy I know in terms of sciencey stuff. And he's a D&D nerd, self-proclaimed. Not quite as strong as Tyrone Williams, top 5 cornerback in the league, but still very strong when you self-proclaim that you're a D&D nerd. So because of all those things, and he worked at Denny's Super Value, he is our super fan of the week, Rick.
Thanks. I'm humbled.
That's an honorable display to have the actual super fan on with us, and to know that I've known him for almost all of his life.
Watch his face while this happens. Come on. You can do it. I did it.
Ben was my mentor at Denny's Super Value.
Yeah,
Wow.
I taught you all the things you needed to know. And then Weasel taught you all the things you should have never known, and he ruined all my training. Way to go, Weasel! You ruined it!
Well, you had to know that Adam is always a bad influence. Plus, Rick wears a Countervoid shirt tonight. Look at that.
I figured that's what
Yeah!
got me the nod.
Dang.
No,
It does say
But that's a
counter
great
void,
shirt.
not COVID. Just in
COVID
case anyone's
void,
not paying
yeah.
attention at home. So
That's true.
kind of cool.
Dang, you should have. You were too early with those shirts. Think how many more you could have sold just by mistake or
Yeah.
accident.
We
These
should change
days.
our name to COVID Void. The COVID Void.
That would be
We're the-
good. That would be incredible.
We avoid all the COVIDs. COVID avoid. That's what we should have changed. COVID avoid.
There you
Maybe
go.
we'll
Your
change
new
our name.
album.
Nobody knows. Nobody listens to us anyways, so we might as well change our name, and nobody's gonna know the difference.
There's
I was
still
just
time.
listening to our new song today again. That Brad and I recorded back in July, and I still haven't gone up there to do anything since then. And dang Vernon, if it's not good, woohoo!
We'd expect nothing less from you. I'm sure it is good. What is it
It is.
like?
It's like
Russell Wilson pass.
what? No, but it is kind of like a Seattle rock band. It's got a little it's got a little Queensryche vibe to it for a little bit in the verses. I got some I kind of channeled Jeff Tate a couple times in there.
Wow. You haven't done that since your first song you ever wrote.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a little bit of that blind corner in it.
I mean, the first song you wrote, we forget that one. But the first good song you
Yeah.
wrote.
First good song I wrote. Yeah, the first song I wrote, that was The Best I Can. That was a terrible song. And the second song I wrote was called Hurricane, and that sucked too. But then I wrote Blind Corner, and I was like, oh crap, maybe I got something here. I'm not as bad as I thought I was. And then from that on, I pretty much write pretty good songs.
You do write a lot of
they're
good
not
stuff.
terrible. They're not
They're
terrible.
all very, stop that. They're all very good. Not that they're not terrible. They're all very good.
Oh, wait a minute.
Bruce says Ron's
Bruce
Castle
says
Foods
Ron
is better.
Castle Food's better than Denny's Super Ripoff.
These are two Denny's Super Value employees right here.
No, Denny's was the best. Listen, is
Formerly-
Ron Super Value? Listen, is
formerly
Ron
Red
Super
Owl.
Value,
Originally
does
Red
Ron
Owl.
Super Value stay open extra late on Tuesday nights for these really stinky people, so they go in and buy $500 worth of stuff because he won't let them in. Nobody else wants them in their building. But Denny would stay open on Tuesday nights just for those stinky people to come, and their grandma was always in the back seat. Did you ever have to do that, Rick?
Yes, they buy like $200 worth of cat food.
Yes. And we would have to mop the floor, and I'd be mopping the floor in one aisle, and I could tell what aisle they were in based on how bad the stunk got when I was mopping the floors. And then they'd come, and then we'd have to bag all their stuff and bring it out to their car. And they'd come every 2 weeks on a Tuesday night. And there'd still be bags in there from the last couple of weeks in there. And then you'd fill up the back trunk, and then I'd be like, I got more. Where do you want? I remember the first time I was like, where should I put it? And they're like, oh, you can put it inside in the back. And I was like, okay. So I opened the door, and then there's this lady sitting there, like an old grandma. And I was just like, what's going on? And I had so much stuff. I was like, so I just kept piling it in there, and I kept giving it to the grandma, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever been a part of in my life. But that's dedication. Denny is a man who never, if he could get money from something, he would get the money somehow. We all know that. Not to mention how many times, I don't know if I should be saying this stuff, but I was old enough, so it didn't matter. But I happen to know a couple guys named Rick and Weasel who were not old enough to be doing trucks at 5 o'clock in the morning on Wednesdays before school opened up. But they were still doing it under the radar. Right, Rick? But that never happened.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
There's also the time that they put the addition on the store, and someone named Weasel and Rick were cleaning adhesive off the tiles with mineral spirits, and someone named Weasel got high off of the fumes and was like squealing and running around the corners and tackling people. So, but the good old days.
There's a lot of misadventures, but there was always a couple donuts and some chocolate milk, so that was nice too.
And that's why
Made it all worthwhile.
Denny's Super Value. Sorry, it's just a step ahead of Ron's Castle Foods, Bruce. Although Ron's very nice store.
It was
Sure.
Denny's
Yeah, it was
meat department that
nice.
set
And
it apart.
Oh, the best was when Chad used to work there. And he used to be in the back room, and he'd just take the meat, and like you were talking about the pickle race, Jace?
Yep.
Chad would do the meat race. He'd just take the meat, throw it against the wall in the back room, and it just slide down. And he'd do it again. It was old meat. It wasn't stuff that was going to get sold again. So don't get me wrong. It was just stuff he was supposed to just discard and throw away because it was old and nobody bought it. But he would still be back there just chucking it and throwing it against stuff. And I don't know. It was weird. But Chad was in the meat department for like, I think 3 months before they figured out that wasn't a good job for him. And then I don't know where he went after that, but
I think that's when they hired me, probably.
maybe. Might have been.
Oh my God.
All right.
There's only one good way to end this show.
Might have got Denny in trouble for this.
Only one good way to end this show.
It's all alleged. Thing.
Yeah.
Double
That was a
fart
good
gun
one.
salute. Double fart gun salute for super fan Eric.
Eric Dahl.
Eric Dahl.
What a
Thank you,
man.
thank
What a
An
man.
actual name. All right. Friday night will be better. Don't worry. We're self-scouting the rest of the week, and we'll find a way to be better than we were tonight. Maybe. Rick can't be better, but we can.
Go Raiders. Go Packers. Chiefs suck.
Raiders and the Packers. Come on.
Suck.
I want to see it. Raiders and the Packers. Raiders and the Packers. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, but
you-
if that happens, then what's going to happen then? Then Rick's going to be, sad.
No, he'll be okay. He'll be okay.
If they made it to the Super Bowl, I'd be pretty happy about that.
Yes.
Okay.
Me too, because the Packers could beat them. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah,
All right.
probably.
That's
All right. Packers fans, take care. We'll catch you next week. Whether you're in Europe, whether you're in Mexico, whether you're in Wisconsin or Minnesota or wherever, take care of yourselves. Be safe. And we'll catch you on Friday night, 9 p.m. here on the Hafeman Bros